Let's get right to it. Talk about the future of the presidential race. This after President Biden dropping out and endorsing Vice President Harris. Eamon Javers has more with us this morning, working overtime all weekend.
Yeah, good morning to you, Andrew. We're told that Kamala Harris spent about 10 hours yesterday working the phones at the vice president's mansion here in Washington, D.C. She was surrounded by friends and aides and family. She was eating pizza for dinner last night in her sweatpants, making calls to more than 100 officials as she tries to gear up momentum for a presidential campaign on very, very short notice now that Joe Biden has dropped out of the race. Kamala Harris, you'd have to say at this point, absolutely the front runner, but has not clinched the Democratic nomination. That process will be official, we're told, and will start on Wednesday of this week with a meeting at the DNC, which will be televised and available on YouTube for everybody to watch. So some fascinating behind-the-scenes moments last night. One indication that those phone calls were starting to pay dividends is the fundraising success that Kamala Harris had overnight. The campaign releasing this information saying, since the president endorsed Vice President Harris yesterday afternoon, everyday Americans have given $49.6 million in grassroots donations to her campaign. To put that number in some perspective, Andrew, the Trump campaign raised about $112 million, I believe, in the month of June. So Kamala Harris coming, more than a third of that, if my math is right, in just one night indicates some pent-up demand among Democrats to start pumping money into this campaign. And I think you can imagine that the big donors will also start to do that after they've been withholding money from the Biden campaign in protest of Biden's decision to stay in the race. I think all of that money will now shake loose and head toward Kamala Harris unless another candidate gets into this race. It's not clear at this hour whether or not that will happen. Some of the big feet in Democratic politics have not endorsed Kamala Harris yet. No endorsement yet from Barack Obama, for example. Nothing from Nancy Pelosi. The big names in this party have not moved behind her definitively, and that leaves a little bit of room open for somebody who might want to challenge her. The question is whether there's anybody in the party now who wants to try to do that. Andrew?
So let's talk about that. There's been speculation that Manchin might want to get into this race. I don't know what you think some of the other Democratic candidates, if you think they're going to get into this race. And
Manchin
then
became an independent earlier this year, right?
And then there's the secondary question of who do you think she may choose for her vice president and how impactful that could ultimately be.
Yeah, I mean, look, so one interesting dynamic to watch for is all of the sort of mid to lower tier people who'd been mentioned as possible presidential candidates themselves who endorsed Kamala Harris in the first hours yesterday, including Josh Shapiro of Pennsylvania, a governor in an absolutely crucial state, moving to endorse Kamala Harris yesterday. And I think if you look at that, you can say, well, that might be the beginning of a vice presidential campaign by Shapiro. Pete Buttigieg also endorsing yesterday. He's somebody who's well liked among Democrats for his ability to go on Fox News and talk directly to Trump supporters about, sort of the Democratic perspective on things. Those folks who are moving to endorse Kamala Harris very quickly garner some goodwill, right. Maybe put themselves in a position to be
Mark Kelly on that list. We talked about Mark Kelly a week ago.
On the predicted list, it's 84 cents for Kamala Harris. Michelle, she's 5 cents, but Michelle Obama, 7 cents, Hillary Clinton, 5 cents, Gavin Newsom, 3 cents, and then a lot of people at 2 cents, including RFK. Not that the betting sites mean anything, but in addition, Hakeem Jeffries, nothing there, Eamon, and Chuck Schumer.
Chuck Schumer,
right. Nothing there.
Nothing from Nancy Pelosi.
Yeah, he mentioned Pelosi.
The big feet,
Obama.
The big feet have yet to drop the shoes, to mix my metaphor. So there's still some shoes to drop here.
And they're saying open convention. That is something. I don't know if everybody comes, like if Pelosi, Schumer, Barack Obama, if they all come and endorse her, then is it really an open convention, or is it? Someone would have to emerge that says, I want to do something, right?
So, somebody has to come out, I think, today, right? I mean, I think Kamala Harris, if she goes more than 24 hours into this without opposition, I think that she has it locked up. The Democrats might move to do a virtual convention before the official convention to wrap up the voting and then make the convention sort of this big marketing push that they traditionally have become in American politics, where there are no uncertainties on the convention floor. It's just an advertisement for the candidate. they may want to do that and do this early.
But they wanted to do that with Biden, and the delegates were pushing back, which is part of the calculus that went into Biden's decision on that, too.
Exactly right.
Eamon, can you go through just two pieces of this? The money piece, meaning money that went to Biden, we're talking about $95 million, goes to her.
Yep.
That money you believe unavailable to others. There's obviously a big question mark. Republicans may actually go to court even over the fact that she could get the money. There's also the idea that maybe if she were the candidate, that maybe the money could move elsewhere and that people would just sue each other over it. I'm curious sort of how important you think that pot of money is on a relative basis to the billion-plus, dollar pot in the PAC world.
Yeah, look, I mean, I think the pot of money is important, right? Because, money helps a campaign do all the things that campaigns do. So it's not unimportant. That said, Kamala Harris has control of that money as a candidate on that ticket. They refiled the paperwork with the Federal Election Commission last night. It's now Harris for president, not Biden for president. And Kamala Harris controls that money for now. If she was to be defeated for the nomination and some other candidate X becomes the Democratic nominee, there is the possibility that Kamala Harris could then donate that money to the Democratic National Committee. She could move the money to a super PAC that would operate independently of the presidential but run ads in favor of the presidential candidate. There are ways to deploy that money for somebody else if that's what happens, but Kamala Harris would have to be A, defeated, and B, agree to do that.
We endanger,
that's sort of the
Eamon,
tricky nuance here.